Welcome in, Braves Today, bravestoday.com. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. It's all brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Go to Annuity 360 for your free book. Tell Ford we sent you in that direction. And Lindsay, let's get into it. What in the heck is going on with the offseason, with this front office and Alex Anthopoulos and these no names, according to Braves fans, that we keep bringing into the program while we are letting good talent walk out the door?
Last Friday was a lot of moves, and then obviously you brought some guys back. You signed you signed somebody on Monday. I think the thing here is Alex Anthopoulos has always kind of looked for value, right? And folks who maybe weren't necessarily that familiar with Ronaldo Lopez or Aaron Bummer, like, I get it that the name doesn't immediately stand out, and the ERA and things like that don't immediately stand out. And there's a question like, what are they doing? I want to respond with Atlanta went and traded for Pierce Johnson at the trade deadline out of Colorado. And I'm a self-proclaimed like big baseball guy, and I didn't even know who Pierce Johnson was. He comes over to Atlanta and puts up an ERA of just barely over 1 down the stretch, and they sign him to a long-term deal. Like, that's what these other transactions have been. Ronaldo Lopez was very, very good until he literally had an eye issue and couldn't see. That's when he was bad. We wrote the whole story up on the site.
I know.
That's why he was bad. He ended up getting moved to the bullpen when he came back from the eye surgery. He's been fantastic since then. We're going to give him a shot to start. Aaron Bummer.
He's literally Rick Vaughn from Major League.
He's literally Rick Vaughn. Look at Eddie Rosario. Rosario had a terrible 2022 because he had an eye issue and couldn't see. And when he got the surgery, he came back, and in 23, he was much better than he had been in 22, and arguably was worth the money that he made in 2023. So Atlanta's never been the team to go for the big splash and pay the frontline money. Now, they offered that money to Aaron Nola, and honestly, it's very reassuring to me that Atlanta was trying to give, what was it? They were trying to give $27 million per year to Aaron Nola. They went above that $22 million limit to try to sign Aaron Nola, and they weren't able to do it, but they're trying. And ultimately, I trust Alex Anthopoulos that the guys that he brought in, there's a reason he brought them in. He sees value. He sees how we can get more out of them than what they're making, and he has a plan. The big question we have now is who's going to be the big starting pitcher we bring in. That's the question, because Aaron Nola's off the table, and that was head and shoulders the one that I wanted more than anybody else.
Well, and I guess you and I talking before we began, and one thing that you brought up, and you make a good point, is the fact that Aaron Nola ends up going back to a club that he's familiar with coaches he's familiar with. And I understand that there's still some familiarity with the Braves too, and especially their staff, but still he gets to stay at home. He gets to sleep in the same bed he's been sleeping in the last few years. And that goes a long way with guys, especially when they got the money to go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he took a chump change to go back. He's making almost $25 million a year. Atlanta offered 27. He got an extra year on the contract that he probably wasn't going to get from Atlanta. The overall money is more than Atlanta's reported offer to him, but it's an additional year. So per year, he's not making as much, but the deal is 7 years, which is a long time to sign any pitcher. I think it's the longest pitcher deal we've seen since maybe Garrett Cole went to the Yankees. So, I mean, was Atlanta going to sign him until the age of 37, 38? I don't know, but he did stay home, and that's what, as fans, we always want guys to do, right? We want guys to stick with the teams that drafted them and brought them up and gave them opportunities when they were young. And so it's hard to be mad about this. The big question now, just where does Atlanta go from here? And like, I personally have opinions that you shouldn't pivot to a guy like a Sonny Gray or a Blake Snell, because one, they're going to be qualifying offer guys as well. So you're also going to lose draft picks for them. But money-wise, draft pick-wise, length of contract-wise, they're probably not going to be worth it like Aaron Nola was. What's the big argument that we've had about Braves pitching in the postseason? Is that these guys have not been healthy or have been available or at 100%
Correct.
in the postseason. Aaron Nola, The last time he went on the IL was 2021, and they made him because he failed a COVID test. He has pitched at least 170 to 180 to 190 to 200 innings every single season. He's broken 200 innings 3 times in the last 5 full years. And then outside of that, it's 193, 180, and 168. He's reliable. The fielded independent pitching's always somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5. The ERA fluctuates. We know how luck plays in baseball. But the fielded independent pitching's there.
You said that word again.
Yeah, luck. Oh no. Phillies fans coming after me here. But he's a good pitcher. He's reliable. That's why I was comfortable giving up 2 draft picks for Aaron Nola. But reports are Atlanta's pivoted to Sonny Gray. Okay, great. Sonny Gray's career highs in innings in the last 5 years was this year. He pitched 184, and in 2019 he pitched 175. Outside of that, it's 119, 135, 130. He hasn't really been available like everybody else has, and he's already 34 years old. It's a little bit different if you give a 3 or 4 year deal to a guy, give up 2 draft picks, and then you're still not even sure if he's going to be available in the postseason. That's the complaint you've had about Max Fried and Charlie Morton and all these other guys. So I'm almost at the point now where I don't want to go after Sonny Gray or Blake Snell. I want to go after somebody who's not going to cost those 2 draft picks.
Well, and I want somebody that's a little bit younger. 34. Lindsay, you can't do much more than a 3-year deal on something like that. And they're probably going to want 4 or 5 years. And now you made a very good point in our Discord that we were talking about. And you said, listen, sometimes when you sign long-term deals like Aaron Nola did, you're fully expecting to get most bang for your buck year 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
4 and 5, a little bit mediocre. And then 6 and 7, you're just basically you're just happy that you paid him what you paid him to get those first 3 years out of him. And we saw that even with position players. Albert Pujols was one of the prime examples of that. When they signed that big year deal with him to play first base, and the Angels did, it was like, that dude's 65, and they still paid him all those years because they couldn't. Nobody had a valid birth certificate on him, so nobody really knew how old he was. And so you see, but you're paying for that up front. Well, when you start with a guy like Gray that's 34, you're paying for a year and a half, 2 years, because you're 3 and 4. I'm sorry, the Charlie Mortons of the world are different. The Nolan Ryans of the world that pitched up until they were in their 40s, different. And so when you start talking about a Sonny Gray who's had trouble staying on the field, you don't want to hand him or hand a team, 3 draft pick or 3 prospects for a year and a half, 2 years worth of maybe work that you may get.
Exactly. It's that's the thing you have to think about with the top starting pitchers left, is it's not just going to be the money. It's going to be the additional cost. Gray and Snell, both of those guys, they're going to be your 2nd and your 5th highest draft picks in the 2024 draft. Yamamoto, the top international free agent, he was posted on Monday. If you sign him, there's a posting fee involved, and it's going to be around $30 million extra on top of the contract that you have to pay to sign him. And so I'm kind of I was willing to give up the 2 draft picks for Aaron Nola because my thought process was he's been so healthy. Odds are the players that you would have taken there, you won't need to ask them to start in his place because he'll be around. Sonny Gray, Blake Snell, you don't have those assurances. So just move past this tier of qualifying offer guys, and let's go look at your Jordan Montgomerys, some of your Eduardo Rodriguez, some of your guys below this tier of pitching that doesn't have a qualifying offer, and you don't lose draft picks. And then we can do some contingency plans around that. Maybe you sign a guy on a rebuild your value rehab thing like a Luis Severino from New York. He's a guy who started a no-hitter in his career. Spencer Turnbull, maybe something like that. Michael Lorenzen, some of these guys that aren't going to cost you draft picks. You can probably get them for cheaper. And if you're able to fix them, which Atlanta's been pretty good at getting pitchers to hit their performance in the past, to return to their value, then you're getting value. You're not giving up draft picks. And maybe now you have a 5-man rotation with 2 new additions. Maybe you can sign one of those guys long-term or have option years on there, and you have some certainty for 25. And then the other part of me too thinks if you don't go top of the market to get a guy like a Gray or a Snell or whatever, you can show the offer that you gave to Nola. You can talk to Max Fried's folks and say, hey, we tried to sign Aaron Nola. We couldn't do it. Let's give you that money instead. We'd love to give you that money and have you extend and stay long-term in Atlanta too.
Speaking of money, speaking of finances, make sure to check out Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net for your free book. Tell Ford we said hello. He is a fiduciary and sound financial advisor, also a contributor to Forbes.com, writing articles for Forbes, author of Annuity 360, and wants to give you that free book, Annuity 360, at no cost to you. Just go to annuity360.net, put your information in, and get your free Annuity 360 book today. And make sure you tell Ford that we said hello. Speaking of which, as we talked about the no Gray, no Snell, you and I are in the same page as we'd rather not have them because of, and you mentioned a few names. In order to keep the base happy, does he have to hit a big home run or a big name now? Because you and I have talked about it. Atlanta probably needs that, if not one, that two guy, especially. I don't want to go ahead and throw this jinx out there, but if Fried's going to continue to have some blister issues, there needs to be another guy. There needs to be another big horse in the stable.
Yeah, and I still think you can go into, like looking at our free agent rankings on the site. Once you get past those first few guys, you've got that tier of Eduardo Rodriguez, Jordan Montgomery. I'm not going to say Lucas Giolito. I don't think he deserves to be in that tier, although I do think that he could rebound this year. But the fan base is not, there's a certain segment of the fan base that is not going to be happy if you don't come out of this with a big name. And on the one hand, I get it because Atlanta talked about, we know something has to change after the postseason. We cleared up all this roster space. We cleared up all this money. You're expecting a big name. On the other hand, I would rather have to just trust Alex Anthopoulos that the moves we do make are going to work out versus going financially too far to bring in a big name for the sake of bringing in a big name, right? Like you will still have Spencer Strider and Max Fried and Charlie Morton in 2024. And so you don't necessarily have to bring in a big name. We just want another one so that we have safety in numbers, right? If you have 4 postseason quality starting pitchers, then theoretically you're going to have 3 still available in the postseason. That's kind of the thought process, right? And so I trust Alex Anthopoulos, if he can't bring in a big fish, to bring in some smaller fish that together can swarm and do a Power Rangers Megazord thing and become the guy you need in the postseason. Look at Philadelphia. You watch them have a lefty come in, start the game, pitch 3 innings, and then they went to an amazing bullpen full of velocity and swing and miss, and they closed that game out against Atlanta. You've added a ton of velocity and a ton of swing and miss to this bullpen, and so it kind of feels like Alex Anthopoulos is making sure we have multiple options here. You still have your big 3 for this season. Obviously, there's questions about both Fried and Morton after this. But you got your big 3. You've got a bunch of swing and miss stuff. You've got a guy like Lopez who you're going to try as a starter. And the last time he was a starter and could see, he was a pretty good starter. And so you're giving yourself as many avenues as possible to be successful in the postseason. I trust AA, but I understand there's going to be fans frustrated if we don't have that big name at the end of all of this.
The thing that makes me trust AA even more, and I know a lot of people say that all we're doing is just giving a lot of love for him, but he keeps things so quiet. I mean, think about these names that have come out. These were not names that are on our radar, but they were taking a look at them, and it wouldn't shock me at all if he's got somebody that may be like a 2 or a 3 guy somewhere else that could be coming in and be a big contributor, because you said it best. This next year, you still have Fried. Now, you got to open up some money for him a little bit later on. You still have Strider. You still have Morton. Morton scares me a little bit with age, but still he's been super healthy for the most part for his age. And then you bring in these big arms and these big misses that are coming in, swinging misses that are coming in. And it could be an interesting year or an interesting offseason, as I still think he has some sort of hidden ammunition in the gun that we don't know about.
There's something going on
that he's going to drop at some, because there's just been too much money cut thus far to not see something happen before pitchers and catchers report. I don't know when that's going to happen. It could be everybody's Christmas present. We could be thankful for Thanksgiving when that happens. We're not sure. I just had the sneaky suspicion that he's hiding something from us.
We announced Josh Donaldson, I think the Monday after Thanksgiving back in 2019 or 2018 for the 2019 season. So it could be as soon as next week. The winter meetings, first week of December, a lot of deals happen. Then Braves Today will be on the ground. We'll be at the winter meetings all week. So we'll have plenty of content from there. But like every offseason, right? I've said this on the pod before. Every offseason, there's been one splash by the Braves. You sign Charlie Morton. You trade for Matt Olson. You trade for Sean Murphy. There is the roster space and the money to have a very big splash this offseason. The question is just, what is it going to be and when is it going to happen? And like you said, this front office works in secrecy and things don't get out until they're done. We didn't know about Ronaldo Lopez until literally they posted the press release on Twitter and they told the media, hey, we're having a press conference in 30 minutes. Like that's, nobody had any idea he was signing until that. So, I mean, that's what happens with this front office. That's the frustrating part for us is we can't run off of rumors because we don't have any.
Right.
It's just presenting the options, trying to figure out what makes the most sense, and then seeing what Alex Anthopoulos does.
Super Tight Ship is it's all been brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net for your free book. He is Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor, and we are Braves Today. Braves_Today on Twitter and BravesToday.com for all of the written work. Lindsay, as always, thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy.